Hi, I'm Genevieve from Warm Fuzzies by Jen, and in this tutorial I'm going to teach you how to make the cow's head. Enjoy! So to start, we're going to start with the ear pieces, where we've cut out two of the inner pink ears and two of the outer cow fabric ears. So what we're going to do is take one of the inner pink ears and match it up with its counterpart of the cow fabric. And we're just going to pin around this curved edge and leave this flat bottom edge open so that we can turn it inside out. So about every inch or so, we're going to put in our pins. And then just go ahead and sew that up. Once the ear has been sewn, we're going to flip it inside out so that the fabric's on the right side. And we can just use a chopstick to get the point of the ear out nicely. Make sure it looks great. So you're just going to do that with both ears, and then we will move on. And that's done, and you're going to do that again with the other two pieces. When you're done sewing those two head pieces together, you will get a piece of fabric that looks just like this. So now the ear is sewn into our dart. You can see here when we open it up, it's got that fold that just gives it a little bit more texture. So we do the exact same thing with the other side. So we take our ear again, fold down the top portion just about 1/4 of an inch. I'll show you how to baste that. So you just put it in your machine really close to the edge. Use a large stitch because we're just basting. Then that's sewn down and you don't need to worry about it popping up. It does make it a little bit easier if you're not used to working with this type of fabric. Take our ear with the pink side facing the front. Put it in our dart, lining up the edges of the dart with the edges of the ear, just like that. Pin it once or twice, and go ahead and sew. And our next step is to make our gusset, which is going to give our head form. Putting out your gusset, just a quick point, you need to make sure that this line of the pattern is placed on a folded edge of the fabric, so that once it's cut out, you can open the fabric and have one piece that is twice as large, twice as wide as the original cutout fabric. So that's for both the front and for the back with the cow fabric. So I've put my pattern piece along the folded edge of the fabric so that when I remove the pattern, my piece is wider. So we're going to match up the F's on the front and the back pattern. So these two pieces are going to be sewn together, one over the other. Match those up, pin it and sew it. So once that's sewn, you have a really quite long piece of fabric that we'll be using to give our heads some dimension. So the next step is to add one of these side heads to our gusset here. So the easiest thing to do is just match the cow fabric and the pink fabric to the same on the gusset piece. So with this side head, we're going to match the seams where the fabrics meet. Pin that in place. And then we simply follow the curve. So for this, you do need quite a few pins just to keep the fabric from bunching and moving around, especially when you're sewing it. Minky fabric tends to be quite slippery, so the more pins, the better, really. Use as many as you feel comfortable with. The more often you use this fabric, the more comfortable you will probably get, and you might be able to use a few less pins, but whatever you need to use, go ahead and use them. So I'm just following the curve of the back side head with my gusset piece here, all the way around to the bottom seam of where the front head meets the back head. And there will be an overlap because that is where our turning seam is going to be, and we're going to want to have a little bit of overlap for when we turn it and hand sew that closed. So I just go right up, pin right up to the seam where those meet, and you will have this extra piece here, and that is okay. So once we've done one part, we'll go around and pin this front part now. And once the front part is pinned, you will also have an overlap here, which is exactly what you want. And what we're going to do is we're just going to fold those fabrics together and place them actually towards the back of the head. and just put a pin right there. So these are not matching in length, and that's okay because these are all going to be on the inside of our head. It's just giving us a little bit of extra fabric, again, for when we turn, and I'll get to that. So now we're going to sew all the way around this seam. When you get to this section, you want to make sure this seam lays flat down just to help give your head the proper shape. So I like to start at the end here. And for this, just go very slowly because it is curved, and that will keep it from bunching or getting all messed up in your machine. Now, as you go, just kind of pull the fabric out and lay it flat as it goes under the machine. So now we've sewn around our gusset on one side, and if you turn it, you can see that we've got the start of our cow head shape. We want to keep it this way around, and what we're going to do is just pin again this other side to the gusset, starting at this top seam. So the ear dart is at the top of the head. So this is our top seam here to this top seam. Making sure again that the inside seams are laying flat on both sides. And we can just pin around again. When you're pinning, make sure that your ears are tucked inside and out of the way because we don't want to get those stuck in any seams that we're doing right now. We want those to be nice and loose. When we get down to the bottom of our second side, we want to make sure that we're folding the fabric the same way as the other side. So I'm just going to grab it like that. I'm going to put an extra pin right here because it's bunching a bit on me. And we have an overlap of fabric. I'm going to put one more pin right here. And that should give us here an opening. And this is where we're going to turn our head, and this is where we're going to stuff it. So we want to make sure that that stays nice and open. But once it's all pinned, didn't catch that second fabric there, so we're just going to go like that. Once it's all pinned, go ahead and sew that around, making sure that that opening stays there. Okay, so our second side has been sewn. So now we can see the cow head taking shape. So we have this opening at the bottom, and we're just going to push our fabric through it to turn our head right side out. And there we have our cute cow head. We're going to set that aside now and work on the body. For our body, we're going to start with our front legs. So we have our front leg pieces. We should have 4 of those, and our front hoofs. We should also have 4 of those. So we're going to be matching the Y and the Z on these pieces. So we have our cow leg here with our Y and our Z and our hoof, which matches the Y and the Z. So we put those right sides together, pin across this top line, and sew that up. So we've pinned it. So now that seam is sewn. So when you open it up, you have your front leg with the hoof part attached. So you're going to repeat that same step with the other 3 remaining front leg pieces.